All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, let's get into the next discussion. Expectations are high in Zimbabwe as the country awaits the swearing in of incoming leader Emmerson Mnangagwa.
Absolutely. Well, Mnangagwa met with South African President Jacob Zuma on Wednesday before taking a private jet to return to Zimbabwe. He is expected to be sworn in as the country's new leader on Friday following Robert Mugabe's resignation amid impeachment proceedings.
Now, nicknamed the Crocodile, Mnangagwa is expected to replace Mugabe until the end of the term next year, when the election will be held sometime in September.
Well, it was not clear what the 93-year-old Mugabe and his wife would do next. But the world's oldest head of state said in his resignation letter that legal procedures should be followed to install a new president. Of course, we have joining us at this time TVC News senior researcher Cyril Abaku. Good morning to you and thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
to have you, Cyril.
Yes, I'm glad to
Jobs, jobs, jobs. That's
Exactly.
the promise Mnangagwa is giving to his people during a speech yesterday. Were you impressed by that speech?
Well, yes and no. Jobs appears to be a populist promise, and it appears to be addressing perhaps what is a very immediate need and which is important. But I think that going ahead, those jobs will take some time to come. Okay, quality jobs will take some time to come. But I think that while he's talking about jobs, someone also needs to remind him that what is more pressing, what is really more pressing, is the question of electoral reforms. Jobs are important. We want them. Perhaps if he's able to create a certain measure of engagement or employment for people, it will put faith in the people to vote for him next year. So that is, it's fine, but you know, I mean, these things can be interpreted in different ways. True. But I think that, look, in a country that has had one election umpire since 1981, he has exceeded the age of retirement. Mugabe left India. 2 years ago, there was an addition of 800,000 voters to the voter register when there was no there was no publicized or proper voter registration. He just came and announced that 800,000 people have been added to the voter register. That man needs to go. The ZEC, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, must be thoroughly reformed. Sack the board and bring in honest people whom even the opposition can vouch, people who are beholden to the Zimbabwean public, perhaps with international support, because that body is seriously, grossly underfunded. They lack material, they lack logistics, so that they can continue to play the puppet for Mugabe, who was in power. But with Mnangagwa coming, he needs to make sure that he works on the ZEC very thoroughly, because the biggest thing they're going to do, you know, even in a normal system of government, you plan a presidential election in about a year or a little over a year. So he has very little time going into next year, which means that actual work and actual is going to come from 2018. So between now and that time, what can he do? He can create those jobs if he has a...
But then he's part of ZANU-PF and was part of the last administration, so...
Not just part of the last, he was the chief enforcer of all of the policies of Robert Mugabe.
Ruthless actions of former president
were carried out by him.
Well, I mean, nicknamed the Crocodile, which of course, you know, can be a very brutal animal. But I think that, you see, the discussions around Mnangagwa is the fact that we are in a Herbertian situation. We have no other choice. He is there. All our hopes, all our fears, all our dreams, all our aspirations as Africans and as Zimbabweans, if that's what we are now, are on him. All eyes are on him. Yesterday, you could see her, and you know, this whole discussion has been about the ZANU-PF.
True.
Yesterday, people gathered at the ZANU-PF headquarters. They were all there singing and chanting, waiting for their savior. And this is the savior that is coming to save us from what? Save us from the same mess he created. As it is now, we cannot even call for a Truth and Justice Commission to look into human rights abuses
under Mugabe,
which will of course sink Mnangagwa himself. So if we are putting that away from the table, I think whatever substitute we want to replace, like what I mean is, if we take away the prospect of a Truth and Reconciliation, a National Healing Commission off the table for some reason, nothing. I mean, nothing can be said to be too much to ask in place of that, because what satisfies the human conscience or the human mind is justice and truth. But you see, where we are saying that, let's wave that aside. Let's even say that Mugabe should go and rest, as they have been saying. So what is the next big thing that we want? it is not just making promises, which of course anybody can make. It is not just about having the messianic or hagiographic clout. What can make Zimbabwe move forward is the question of reforms. And at least it should begin. Section 328 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which empowers the Electoral Commission to carry out its functions, should be looked into. How do we appoint the people that man the ZDC? As I said, a country where someone has been chairman of what in Nigeria we call INEC since 1981, only one man has been chairman of INEC. It's funny, isn't it? So we need to look into that. When we fix that and we fix the process, you remember that after the 2013 elections, Morgan Changar and his people said, we are not going to participate in any election anymore. Let's think of how we're going to form coalitions. And you see, the challenge is this. Before now, they will hold the elections to the office of president separately, office of parliament separately, regional government separately. In 2013, Mugabe said they should hold, or was in 2008, Mugabe said they should hold all the elections all at once. That was what led to the serious crisis, you know, and people died and so on. Now, in 2013, July 31, 2013, they held their last elections, and so the plebiscite, even ZANU-PF members were surprised to hear that they won the elections. You know what I'm saying? So such things should not happen. Normally, I will expect that it will be impolitic for him to come in and leave Mugabe's. But you see, Charles, Mike, again, there's a problem. When Mugabe called for a cabinet meeting on Monday, cabinet members shunned the meeting because their allegiance had moved from
Mugabe to have been translated.
When we even say we want change, we wonder what is going to
because the party already expelled Mugabe.
There is the issue now of between Mugabe resigning and Mnangagwa being sworn in tomorrow. Who is in charge of Zimbabwe?
The Attorney General of the government.
Okay.
The ZANU-PF made sure that the Minister of Justice and Attorney General
will be in charge.
Yes, was in charge.
Okay.
As a cabinet minister, but as also the administrative officer running the government. Making sure that
that was the same case we had in Nigeria, where Nwafo Rizu became in charge of the government in 1966. When
although the challenge is that you see the principle of subrogation, which in the Nigerian Constitution, in the First Republic, when we had Nwafo Rizu as Senate President, he came in to act as, and then I think that was from August 1965 up until the coup took place in January 1966. We also saw it happen under Oshibajo and Buhari when Buhari had to take sick leave and Oshibajo stepped in. But in the Zimbabwean case, they are blending military tactic with political situation, with expediency,
anything to
and all
hold
kinds of
on.
things. I don't know where in the law books. You know, like we said yesterday, there is that Impoko lady who is supposed to be vice president, but
she was expelled too because, like you said yesterday,
she can't. Yes,
she was there to pave way for
Grace. For Grace Mugabe.
Now, a ZANU-PF delegate said during the whole excitement that there is a strong possibility that Grace would be prosecuted. And of course, even opposition is saying that it's just leave Mugabe, let the old man go and rest. So if you want to prosecute Grace, a lot of things could still happen in that country.
Yeah, well, I think that just comes to recrimination because, I mean, a lot of toes have been stepped upon. You know, Joyce Mujuru fell out.
Former vice president.
Yes,
because of Grace.
And Joyce Mujuru was particularly a guerrilla warrior herself. I mean, she was in the trenches with them, fighting and so on. The anger is that, you see, most of the pillars, the people, the creme de la creme of the Zimbabwean political elite who assisted Mugabe,
the war veterans,
she was publicly undermining their integrity, publicly casting aspersions upon them, calling them names, abusing them, and these people are saying, look, where were you when we invested? Mugabe was first jailed when he was 20. You know, first time that he went to jail when he was just 20, but the consciousness was already there. As at 20, she was not born. When Mugabe was 30 years of age, she had not been born yet. When he was 35 years of age, she had not been born yet. He was 40. A generation is 30 years. So she's light years away From where here in his island to where?
But then she was subtly powerful enough to control
well,
the man.
you know, the lady was a typist in his office. I mean, and then
married.
yes.
Oh, that's another story for another day.
And in fact, the mode by which she got became
is controversial.
The war veterans certainly will see it as honorable enough.
Of course they would. And you see, I think that whatever intelligence she was attempting to secure and implement in her, perhaps in her quest for power, was that, you see, in a situation where the power structure is militaristic, where the power structure is command and control, where you have what is a tyrannic and close to authoritarian state, you cannot come into power as a dove or as a gentle person. You need to come in and start, speaking in the language they will understand. But you see, fire for fire, one will be higher than the other.
And this brings to mind again what Nagangwa said yesterday, because months back, a few weeks back, she said it was time for them to cut off the snake's head. So Nagangwa yesterday now said he wondered which snake's head had been cut off, meaning that she was referring to Nagangwa. And then, remember the news that there were attempts on Nagangwa's life before, that he had to even come out to point to her that he suspected her to be the one behind his poisoning.
My thought would be this, you see, you know, she's active. She's young.
Quite young.
Yes, young, ambitious, and so on. She's active. So perhaps what I think they're going to do is that they will have some sort of system or structure that will make sure that she goes home to play the nurse to her husband. I think if she will agree to faithfully do that and not make, even by indirection, attempt to have a stake or name or place or say in government, I think she may have her day. But if they consider her to be a sufficient threat, then perhaps they will have to do
but
something.
she's been quite quiet.
We are seeing that, we're seeing, certainly when Morgan Tsvangirai got back to the country, we see some elements of the MDC, even though it's not as vocal as it used to be. But there are aggrieved members of the ZANU-PF, which are the G40, the ones that were supporting or being pillars for Grace Mugabe, which certainly some of them have been arrested, but others I know will maybe be expelled or will leave ZANU-PF.
Or even prosecuted along with Grace.
What is the likelihood that those G40 elements can team up? Because they understand the ZANU-PF structure, they understand the strategies and all of that. They can team up with the MDC and the MDCT, and then the other elements within the country towards the election in the next year.
I'm thinking, because even in the, you know, the ZANU-PF has a women's league, which was Grace Mugabe's path to forming the G40 and so on. They've taken that crucial role from wing from her. I suspect that in the days to come, people who have to become opposition because of Grace feel that their political ancestral home is ZANU-PF. They might want to make a comeback, given, you know, the proper environment. So that may show up some base for the ZANU-PF. Then we must not forget, the mood in Zimbabwe today is that Mnangagwa is our savior, ZANU-PF is our party, and all of us for now have to put aside, the man we want out of power is gone. For now, at least for now. Let us, yes.
But the realities will still come.
Yeah, it's true. The mood, majorly, not generally. Because the MDCT and some Zimbabweans are still worried, yes, and they are not fooled, as they've put it, that Mnangagwa is the savior. MDCT said that, yes, a tyrant has been removed, but tyranny is the system that allowed the tyrants to, you know, to oppress the people for so long, for 37 years, is still in place.
You see, let me begin by with the first issue you raised. Political realities demand that if you have a worry, it has to translate into something tangible. A weak a weak in opposition, a weak power base, or a weak political base can be worried, but let them come to the elections and prove that those worries can translate into something really tangible.
Well, how credible?
So they remain good. They cannot remember where they are.
Viable is the agency.
Number two is that, as I said, you see, the path a leader takes to power determines the kind of leader that he becomes. That ZEC should be disbanded immediately. They should, they need a new election body with the help of the United Nations and the SADC and the AU. They should all come together and see how. Some may say they're a sovereign nation, but I think that in their attempt to reform, in their attempt to rebrand, they need to
be seen.
Yes, they need to be
They need to
open
be
up.
seen.
So, yes.
To be objective.
That's the word. The intention is not enough. They need to be seen to have that intention, and that means that they need to have both internal and international dimensions. They need to bring these people in to assist the process. That will also determine how much assistance that they are going to get. The tyranny, the question of the system that made Mugabe what he is, like I said, begin with electoral reforms, and then they can build up gradually. I won't expect them to take everything away overnight. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, so it will be a gradual process. Let us now understand what Mnangagwa really wants to put on the table.
Okay. Now, I know by tomorrow when he's sworn in, we'll get to hear some of his plans for the country, as the case may be. Now, we're getting feelers from Britain and some other Western countries, and from what British Foreign Minister is saying and what British Prime Minister, all of them, what they're saying is there has to be, they will do what it takes to support Zimbabwe. Now, we also see that the fate of the white farmers has been, swinging all the while, as the case may be. We all know what happened and all that. And if Mnangagwa is talking about jobs now, are we seeing a possibility of him bringing the white farmers back on board and saying, okay, fine, let there be some level of arrangement where you have your farms back, you farm more and then employ more people.
To shore up his
Exactly.
Yes, it will be a political masterstroke if it does that. Mind you, Southern Rhodesia, Northern Rhodesia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe today, South Africa, even Botswana, and so on. The capital, I mean money, capital has, the psychology of capital in these countries has a white, if that is the word, has a white coloration.
Has a white face.
Yes, has a white face. Yes. So there is need for him to pitch into that, and then you see when he does that, it will send a reverberation to countries that I suppose he will be needing the assistance, to give them this image of we are now a new and better nation. Because
Zimbabwe is like the beautiful bride right now.
And we are open. It will send that signal of us being open. Then I think that support coming from the outside world, perhaps because of the way the OE was formed in 1963 itself, they ought to be the ones taking the lead in this issue.
Taking charge.
Yes, taking the lead in these issues, and the SADC and the AU ought to be taking the lead in assisting this country come out of the doldrums.
He's seeing
and
his meeting
properly.
Yeah, his meeting with Zuma maybe might
I
have been one of these.
But when you hear the voice of Britain and you hear the voice of the AU or Zuma, there's a vast chasm. And I think, there's a vast chasm, because whereas the one will look like, let's see what is going to happen, the other will look like, go and get this done. So I think, things like that are also, whether we like it or not, it is, like I always say, power has a structure, and you can't really always change that.
All right,
but for now, we will hope that Mnangagwa will provide jobs and provide much needed electoral reforms, which is what is going to guarantee the sustainability of the state beyond him.
All right, we wait to see how things will play out tomorrow. He'll be sworn in tomorrow, so we'll wait to see. Cyril Abaku, thank you so much for coming on the program.
My pleasure, Mike.
Thank you very much. Right.